Alright, Shalom. Call like Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Kakodash, Yamanas and Apostles, to the others of the Millstone, and will teach well. Most peace, love, and salutations to the whole full recognition of this word and truth and sincerity of heart. Shalom. This is the vertical topic again with another lesson. The Lord willing, this lesson be edifying to the whole full So, let me read this copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 USC, Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing non-profit, educational, or personal use. Tips the balance in favor of fair use. So, let's start. It's like I wanted to bring out this quote first. This is the quote is: to learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize. Criticize. It says to pass judgment, usually unfavorable, on something. Critic, meaning to discuss critically, to consort, point out defects or faults. To point out defects or faults of someone. Simple meaning of criticize. Criticize means to indicate the faults of someone or something in a disapproving way. A form and expression and express a sophisticated judgment on. To criticize, to consider the merits in Merriam-Webster. To find fault with. To point out the faults. So, if you find out who's ruling over you by those who you're not allowed to criticize, you can't call them out. You can't call certain people out when they do something wrong or they do something evil, or you'll get silenced. Now that brings us to this situation here. American woman facing 15 years in prison for cracking jokes about BB. The letter B and the letter B in private WhatsApp group. Now, I got a video on YouTube I want to play. You know, say goodbye to free speech. Free speech is out of the window. Free speech is gone.
A full cart that's lighter on your wallet. That's a breath of fresh air. Use the code on screen for a $10 bonus on your first purchase.
Why didn't I download Highly sooner? I've got a date with a musician.
Gabriela Saldana facing a judge Thursday morning, according to her arrest.
To an objective person, it's not a joke.
No, to a Zionist mental case, it's not a joke. To everybody else in the world, it's a joke. So a Florida college student has been arrested. Orange is the new black kind of arrested, for making a joke about Netanyahu on a WhatsApp thread. And according to Adam, he's been warning about this for so long. Actually, it's happening. A Florida college student has been arrested. So you want to hear the news report about it? Here, I'll play you the news report.
It's unfortunate because I'm assuming she's a senior and going to graduate soon, and now this is going to jeopardize her ability to graduate.
A 23-year-old FIU student charged with a felony over messages she wrote in a school group chat. Gabriela Saldana facing a judge Thursday morning. According to her arrest report, this went down in a WhatsApp group chat of about 215 students where students were discussing an event that was to take place Friday at the Ocean Bank Convocation Center on campus to make their capstone presentations. An FIU police officer read some of the statements in court.
The exact words utilized was, "There's going to be a bomb in the Ocean Bank Convocation Center, and it's going to be at Jonathan's fault," one of the members in the chat.
7 News obtaining some bits of that chat. It seemed the student wanted the event rescheduled and wrote, quote, "Netanyahu, if you can hear me, drop some bonbons for us capstone students in Ocean Bank Convention Center."
So that's an obvious joke. Drop some, but she didn't even say bombs. She said bonbons,
Right, and
which that's a
Netanyahu, the most
that's
moral
that's a
president.
dessert, right? A bonbon.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, like
ice cream inside chocolate or something.
Yeah.
Something.
she didn't even
Filled
she didn't even
chocolate.
use the term bomb. It's an obvious joke. That's how crazy it's gotten. So you got DeSantis as the governor, and you got
Yeah.
guys like Randy Fine. By the way, we're going to have Dan Bilzerian on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time.
Can I tell you what the judge, Mindy Glazer, ruled? That it was probable cause, stating that an objective person would view the messages as a credible threat.
What? Like somehow this girl has the ability to make Benjamin Netanyahu drop bombs on their.
You get the point. You know, I'm not gonna play all of this. You know, you can check this video out on the Jimmy Dore Show. But just wanted to show you that this woman is being charged for joking about Bibi. You know, and free speech, being able to say what you want, it's finna be out the window. Gabriela Sindela, she sound like a Northern Kingdom. I could be wrong though. It says a 23-year-old student was recently arrested and hit with a second-degree felony charge for what she explicitly described as a dumb joke in a private WhatsApp group. She reportedly made a sarcastic comment about Bibi to drop some bonbons, which police interpreted as bombs, on her capstone event. While the mainstream media is crushing to frame this as a credible threat, anyone with a pulse can see what's actually happening here. The rest is a textbook example of how the American judicial system has been subverted to serve the interests of a foreign power. Here's a tweet from a post on X from Shadow of Ezra, a Florida, just here's another video.
It's unfortunate because I'm assuming she's a senior and going to graduate soon, and now this is going to jeopardize her ability to graduate.
A 23-year-old FIU student charged with a felony over messages she wrote in a school
So you've
group
already
chat.
seen that.
Gabriela
We are now
Saldana.
at a point where college students' dark humor, venting frustration about a school project, is treated as national security priority because it has invoked the name of the Israeli Prime Minister. So you see what's going on here, man. You can't speak against the tiny tops. You can't speak against the small hats. And this is something that I did a video on earlier, a couple months back maybe, that BB said he was going to start targeting Americans for what they say online. So you can't speak out or criticize the tiny tops. It says this is a massive loophole designed to bypass the First Amendment and facilitate the pre-crime monitoring of American citizens. It sends a clear message to every student in this country. Your private conversations are being watched, and if you criticize or even jokingly reference the Z agenda, the state will ruin your life to protect the optics of its masters. See, that's the point. So you can't criticize these devils, and that's something that's unjust. There's no respect of persons when it comes to judgment. If you're doing right, if you're doing something wrong, and somebody call you out on it, that's justified, man. But Esau he silences you when it comes to judgment. There's no respect of persons. Let's see, respect persons. You know, there's no respect of persons when it comes to judgment. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1, verse 7. It says, "Ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is the most highest, and this cause that is too hard for thee, bring it unto me, and I will hear it." So these people, they want you to they don't want you to criticize them. Deuteronomy 1 and 7. Describe Deuteronomy. I know I'm spelling it wrong. Come on, autocorrect. Help me out here. It know what I'm talking about. Fuck it. Sure. Come on, chat. All right, so Deuteronomy 1 and 7 says a clear modern description of the verse. It says it tells judges to be completely fair and impartial when settling disputes. They must not favor someone because they are powerful, wealthy, or important, nor dismiss someone because they are poor or less influential. Every case deserves equal attention and justice. The judges are also told to not be afraid of people when making decisions, because their role is judging is seen as carrying out the Most High's justice. If a case is too difficult, they should bring it to Moses for guidance. So you don't supposed to have respect of persons when it comes to judgment, man. And when the American people are judging the actions of the unjust rulers, you get silenced. You don't have a voice. You can't speak out against the wickedness that they do, or you'll be found, or you'll be locked up. Even though this guy, the prime minister of a certain nation or rulership, he has been doing a lot of evil things, and you cannot speak out against it because they are going to arrest you. You know, you can't criticize the evil that they're doing because they're going to arrest you. The scripture says they hate him that rebuketh in the gate. So when you're doing evil, you don't want to hear when somebody's trying to correct you. The scripture says, tells you, suffer not sin upon thy brother. Let me see. This is Leviticus 19 and 17. It says, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. See, even though he's not our neighbor, but it was coming within our culture to correct somebody when they're doing something wrong. But see, Esau is saying, "Oh, you can't say nothing about me. You can't call out none of my evil deeds. You can't call out none of my wickedness. We're gonna silence you. We're gonna cancel. We're gonna cancel you." It's the job of the prophets to declare, to bring out your skeletons, man. Even the king of Israel, King David, who said, who was the one that came and corrected King David when he went off? It was the prophet Nathan the prophet. So even though you a ruler, you a king, that does not mean you can't be rebuked or corrected for doing something wicked. But Esau is saying, "Oh, you can't speak out against nothing that I do." You see, Um, mm, Trying to think of a scripture. Dang it. Proverbs 9 and 8, it says, "Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee." See, uh, they hate him that rebuketh in the gate, and they abhor him that speaketh uprightly. So ultimately, these devils, they really want to get rid of. Really the target of this is the prophets, is the men of the Lord. They really hate the prophets and the men of Great Millstone, in the respective camps that are teaching the truth about the small hat and teaching the truth about America. They ultimately want to get rid of free speech, but this is just an example of a situation where people are actually going to be persecuted for what they say. Whatever you post online, this is going to be the new. This is going to be the new thing. You're not going to be able to say certain things online. You can't say certain things about certain people, especially when it comes to the tiny tops. You can't say nothing about them, or you'll get railroaded. But it's within our culture to speak out against the unrighteous deeds of rulers. You see, the prophets and the men of the Lord always did that. When rulers wasn't or kings wasn't acting right, they got rebuked. According to the Bible, if rulers do evil, if rulers do evil, are they subject to rebuke? Let's see. Yes, according to the Bible, rulers are not above rebuke. They are accountable to to the most high standards of justice. See, if you're in a position of power, you're supposed to be held to a higher regard or a higher level of respect, because you have authority. You can't be a ruler and be a kid, because Esau, he act like a kid when he's a ruler. He do evil. He was like, oh, you can't rebuke me. It's gonna hurt my feelings. Esau don't want to be rebuked, man. You can't say nothing against his evil, his wickedness, or he'll want to silence you or lock you up. It says they are accountable to the Most High's standards of justice, and Scripture includes multiple examples and teachings that show leaders can and should be confronted when they do wrong. That's the point. We are calling out the rulers of Esau, the Edomites, so-called white men. We're calling them out on all their evil deeds. But what do they want to do in response? They want to eliminate you for calling them out, for rebuking them, for telling them that they shouldn't be doing this, that, and the third. You see, you can get locked up, you can get put in prison just because you speak out against wrong that they're doing. And that's why we need salvation. This is another reason why we need salvation from this place. It says, one of the clearest examples is when Prophet Nathan rebuked King David. That's what I was reading. I will quote it. I talked about earlier. After his sin with Bathsheba, 2 Samuel chapter 12, even though David was the king, he was still held accountable and corrected. See? Another example is Elijah confronting King Ahab for injustice and wrongdoing, 1 Kings chapter 21. This shows that prophets, and by extension, God's truth, stand above political authority. See? The principle behind this is reflected in passages like Ecclesiastes 5 and 8, acknowledges that authority structures exist, but injustice is still seen and ultimately judged. Psalms 82, God depicts judging earthly rulers for failing to uphold justice. Deuteronomy 1:7 emphasizes that judgment belongs to the Most High and must be carried out without partiality. See? Ecclesiastes 5:8. Let's go there. Let's go see what it's. Ecclesiastes 5:8. I knew there was some scriptures. I just, see Ecclesiastes 5:8. If thou seest the oppression of the poor and perverting, violent perverting of judgment and justice in the province, marvel not at the matter, for he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there is higher than they. This is the NLT. Says, don't be surprised if you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful, and if justice is being miscarried throughout the land, for every official is under orders from higher up, and matters of justice get lost in red tape and bureaucracy. See? So what we are experiencing is people that are more powerful and have more influence and wealth and control, they're able to oppress the poor and silence the poor. Psalms 82. Let's leave it. Let's look at another translation. This is the BBE. It says, if you see the poor under a cruel yoke and law and right being violently overturned in the country, be not surprised, because one authority is keeping watch on another, and they are higher than they. AMP. If you see the oppression of the poor and the denial of justice and righteousness in the province, do not be shaken at the sight of corruption, for a higher official watches over another official, and there are higher ones over them looking out for another. So there's supposed to be righteous judgment all throughout the chain of command, but really, it's not. The rulers are evil, and the people in the offices under them are evil. If you read Sirach, it tells you that the people follow the influence of the leader. So if the leader is wicked and permitting this type of shit to go down, everyone else under them is going to permit it. Sirach chapter 2 verse I'm sorry. Sirach, it's not Sirach 2. It's Sirach chapter 10, or Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, verse 2. It says, as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all that dwell therein. So they're following orders that come down the chain of command. So now you can't, free speech is being attacked by certain people. You can't speak out against certain people, man. You can't say what you want to say. It says at the same time, back to the chat. At the same time, the Bible also teaches respect for governing authorities, like in Romans 13. So there's a balance. Respect authority, but do not excuse wrongdoing. See? In short, biblically, rulers are accountable to the Most High, and when they act unjustly, they can be rightly rebuked, especially in the name of the truth and justice. So that's the point. So this is another an unrighteous decree where you